It's like the stupidest mask. Bill Belichick, put your ugly nose into your fucking mask. Gotta find another photo. Maybe. You feeling bendy today?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
That big D lineman strength right now? You feeling bendy?
Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Welcome in, everybody, to Fan2Fan Detroit. I'm your host, Andrew Norris. This is Double P, producer Parker. It is Sunday, as always, when we record. You're listening to this on Tuesday, and it has been quite an eventful day. First, I had to wake up, be sad as hell, as I'm going to be most weeks this season from the Detroit Lions, win or loss, really, because I don't know if I'm rooting for wins anymore. Then I had to suffer the most tragic loss of my lifetime on the Movie Trivia Podcast, also here on Planet Ant Podcast Network. But then I got to take a little break, prepare for the show, and then watch the Lakers have an absolutely exciting, amazing victory with Anthony Davis hitting a shot at the buzzer. We are going to cover all that and more. But first, before we do that, Parker's got a little bit of something for those of you out there listening that I think could excite some of you.
Sure. I have one comment and then also one apology. I'm going to start with the apology. And it's that I haven't been putting the pods up right away. And I just got to put my hand in the air and say, my bad. It's too many places. My bad. That's it. That's all the apology you get for that. But that'll become more consistent, hopefully now. Second thing. So obviously Andrew and I have like our very specific strengths, I think, with sports. We do a lot of basketball and football on the show. We do some baseball. We occasionally do soccer. And then we kind of do like major news kind of headlines. But Andrew and I are both interested in expanding the universe of this show. And so what that means is if you're an expert in specifically hockey, if you're an expert in specifically college football, if you're an expert in specifically college basketball, if you're an expert specifically in Korean women's volleyball, whatever it might be, shoot us a message. We're going to do some correspondent pieces if we can. We just want to talk more and learn more about stuff and create, I think, a more topic encompassing show. It's a big scary world out there for sports, and there's just only so many hours in the day for Andrew and I, who both work full-time jobs and like do other stuff too. So I just don't have time. I don't have the RAM in my head to do college football right now, as much as I'd like to, because I think college football is interesting, and like I think the characters involved with it are different, and we just would like to talk to some people, I think, on the show about some of the questions that we have about what's going on in some of those sports, especially hockey, because it's a hockey town. And I think everybody now knows by now that we don't give a shit about hockey. I mean, we do, but it's just like not – it's just not the same. So high barrier to entry for hockey. It's like soccer. You got to know what you're talking about to talk about it. So
yeah, and like I could sit here and I could bullshit college football with you guys for 20 minutes in a show if I wanted to, but I don't want to put out a product like that. I want to have real in-depth conversations, real questions, real answers, real thoughts. And I could do that with Michigan football, but when it gets to the nitty-gritty of the college football, especially Michigan this year,
football.
Yeah. I just don't think that's the right thing for this show for me or him to do. But like he said, if you're a diehard, if you know what you're talking about, let us know. We would love to have you on the show as long as you're for real. You know what you're talking about. We will have a conversation. We want to get that voice into the podcasting world. So just let us know. But jumping into this show and talking about what we at least think we're good at, let's start with some NBA basketball. We're going to get to football. Okay, we'll get there. And we might also have some news coming for everybody soon on football regarding to the show, but we will let you know that later.
I'm curious about what that is.
We talked about it earlier. So let's start, because I want to make everybody at home wait. Let's start with the Celtics and Heat, which looks like it's going to be...
I remember.
Yes, there you go, bud. Looks like it's going to be a down-to-the-wire series. Obviously, the first two games, Celtics held a huge lead, 10-plus points in both. The Heat did what the Heat have done all year long, and especially in this bubble, and that's just put their head down, go to work, come back, win the game through good basketball, good team basketball, good coaching. So game 2, obviously, everybody remembers Jimmy Butler hits the and one, which is just a crazy shot. He just kind of throws it up there. It goes in, hits the free throw. And then Tatum comes around, looks like he has a wide open lane to the dunk, cocks the ball back like he's going to slam it and possibly break that rim off. And out of nowhere, Bam Adebayo is there. And Bam Adebayo has, in my opinion, the third best block in playoff history right there. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think that block was that good. And then after the game, we hear Marcus Smart is yelling in the locker room, telling everybody they're back on their bullshit. People are yelling in the bathrooms and in the showers. Jaylen Brown's getting yelled at. Still, I don't think we have a full idea or a clear idea of what happened there. But you could see that team came out not as a completely different team, but a more focused team for game 3. They took their lead and they held on to it. Sure, a couple times there, it looked like they might have let that go and everything was going to happen again. But the Celtics held on to that. They won game 3 pretty comfortably. It was, I believe, a 10-point game, 10-plus point game at the end. Jaylen Brown, who was the main person getting yelled at by Marcus Smart, came out and had a really good game, one of his best, if not his best, of the playoffs so far. And I think what we do as sports fans is we always react to these locker room arguments or these screaming matches like it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend sitting there, and that it's going to boil over and it's just going to be there for weeks and you're not really going to get over it for a while. But I think for a sports team, how it works is, fuck you. Hey, fuck you. All right, we're cool. Like, I think it's a lot like 11-year-old dudes getting in a fight, like a fist fight. You punch each other and then you're fine. You keep playing your pickup game.
Got weird 11-year-old friends, man.
Dude, were you not getting in fist fights when you were 11 years old?
I don't know. I'm kind of a wuss. I tend to be pretty conflict averse.
That's all me and my friends were doing. Playing football, swinging at each other, dapping it up, and then playing more football. Okay. But I think it works a lot like that in these locker rooms. And I think the Celtics showed that. They came out, they played as a team, they played good, and they played hard. And I still think this series is going 7.
If anything, I think that this is going to be looked at as like a turning point positive thing, because that's the way media narratives work now. I think that this shit happens like all the time. And because there's not 20 reporters sitting outside who have been sitting in a bubble for 2 months, we just don't hear about it all the time. It definitely happened for some of those Jimmy Butler 76ers teams. There's just no way. There's just no way that wasn't happening twice a week. So I don't really read anything into it, to be honest. This is what Marcus Smart gets paid for, basically.
Exactly.
This is what he does. You know, and he's right. You know, Jaylen Brown was kind of dogged a little bit, I thought, and you can't do that in the Eastern Conference Finals. And he got told, and it got fixed. That's the way that it works. This is what you want. So, if anything, I'm more nervous about the Celtics winning this series. However, I'm still sticking with my guns and going with the Miami Heat. God damn it, my phone.
In 6 still? You still got them in 6?
Yes, still got them in 6.
Yeah, and Jaylen Brown's game 2 was very strange. I mean, I can think of like 5 different instances where he got a pass and he just didn't catch the ball. And it wasn't hard passes to catch. It was like his mind was not in the game, which I think we've heard a couple of players talk about, that when you get in this bubble, it's hard mentally. It's hard for your mental health. It's hard for your focus. You have nothing to do most of the time. I'm guessing a lot of them aren't used to living my type of lifestyle of doing something and then going home and playing video games for 6 hours. But right. That's what they're kind of forced into right now. Most of these guys are used to, they play a game, then they go out to the club, or they go home with their family, or they go to a buddy's house and drink some wine that's specifically for LeBron James. Most of these guys are used to that. And they're just so caught up and so in just one spot, stuck there. And millionaires aren't good at being stuck, I don't think. Mm-hmm. So I think that just really affected this team. And it just took Marcus Smart calling everybody a bitch for it to get fixed. And it looked like it got fixed. So I'm still sticking with Heat in 7. But if the Celtics win game 4, Celtics in 7.
To me, when we look back on this and we'll go, if the Heat win, and I think if the Lakers win, which I think you and I both think is probably the most likely outcome, if that happens, It'll be looked at as these were the two most mentally tough teams in a space of basketball where being mentally tough was the most important thing. I think that's kind of what we're learning, is that mental toughness and the camaraderie of a team and the cohesiveness, all of that matters. More than usual. It always matters, but I think it matters more right now. And I think that that's definitely the thing for the Heat that have kind of propelled them through this. I think that they're the most mentally tough team in the NBA. The Lakers are second.
Yeah, I think that's fair at this point. A month ago, I would have yelled at you for saying that. I would have just laughed in your face. Yeah, and I have been proven wrong 100 times by the Heat. As I tell you guys every week, they just continue to make me look like an idiot. So I'm sticking with my Heat in 7 for now. But let's talk about the game. Game 2 of the Lakers Nuggets that actually just wrapped up before we recorded this. And I was Nuggets in 6 or Lakers in 6 when this series started. I wanted to get my gut was telling me Nuggets in 5, but I wanted to give them a little bit of respect because of what we have seen so far in the playoffs. I mean, 2 3-1 comebacks is like, that's a gritty team. That's a team that doesn't quit. But then tonight happens, and I see the Nuggets have a good, not great game, but a good game, and the Lakers have the worst game since the playoffs started for them. Like, easily, counting game 1 against Portland, the worst game they've played in the playoffs. And the Lakers still find a way to win this. Of course, it took an Anthony Davis buzzer beater. An amazing Anthony Davis buzzer beater came wrapping around a screen at light speed. 2.5 seconds left, right after Danny Green got an offensive rebound, put back shot blocked by Jamal Murray, and he just absolutely drains it right in the eye of Paul Millsap, I believe. Just an outstanding shot. I mean, just showed that people want to call Anthony Davis soft. This guy's cold-blooded, man. This guy hasn't taken a step back in the playoffs ever in his career. He puts up huge numbers all the time. I think the modern-day NBA fan doesn't realize that just because you scored 32 and most of them were around the rim doesn't make that 32 any less skilled or special. Just because you're not chucking it from 33 feet doesn't make those points any less. And I mean, he 2 for 4 today from 3, 11 for 23 from the field, 31 points. LeBron lost it in the second half. He had nothing in the second half. 2 air balls on threes. Every jumper he put up there was clanking off the rim. Couldn't get to the hole. Couldn't get through the lane. There was 4 bodies sitting there waiting for him when he did. And Anthony Davis just picked it up and said, all right, I got it. And I think it's going to be Lakers in 4, man. I think the Nuggets are just done. I think the energy is gone. Tonight probably sucked what they had left out of them. They're going to come out in game 3 with the 3-1 mentality, right? They're going to come out with that. And then the Lakers are going to win the first half by 15. And the Nuggets are going to start packing their suitcases.
I think it's just a tough matchup for the Nuggets. It's too bad. Jokic is in my top 5 most entertaining players to watch.
Did you see that one shot he hit today over Dwight, where Dwight is, I mean, in his eyeballs, and he just chucks the ball 20 feet into the air from like 16, and LeBron jumps because he thinks it's going to be an air ball. So before it even hits the rim, LeBron's in the air, and it is the cleanest swish I've ever seen in my entire life. The shots that guy can put in, man, it looks like he's playing a horse half the time.
He has these like weird like fadeaways that look like Ephus pitches back practically when he shoots them. It's unbelievable. I've never seen a player. There's this kid I knew in high school. His name was Saleh Yassin, and he used to play basketball like Jokic, but if he was very short and not good at basketball. And I watched Jokic like throw the ball over his head now, and it just like brings me flashbacks of like the worst basketball player I've ever met. It's absolutely crazy. He's got like rec basketball league game. I love Jokic. I love watching him.
Crazy stat I just came across from this game. Jamal Murray played 44 minutes. He was a plus 16.
Wow. So
that means in the 4 minutes he didn't play, the Nuggets were minus 18.
That seems kind of impossible, I guess. I don't know what my analysis on that statistic is. I don't
remember a 4-minute huge Lakers run or anything like that. Well, Jamal Murray off the court, but wow, that just shows. And I mean, Jamal Murray wasn't fantastic by any means tonight. 8 for 19, 2 of 9 from 3. But he did what he does, and when he needs a bucket, he he puts one in, except for the very end of this game where Jokic took over and had, I believe, the last 11 points for the Nuggets. What do you think this is going 5, 6, 4? Where are you at?
5. I just 5, and I'm leaning towards 6, but 5. I really respect what the Nuggets have done. They're definitely only one player away. So that's my question for you. What player do you want to add to the Nuggets next year to make them better?
I mean, I feel like the easy answer is Bradley Beal to every team that's one player away, and the Nuggets can put together a package as good as anybody. Gary Harris, Michael Porter Jr., Bol. I mean, there's some interesting pieces that the Nuggets have there that they can put together a package for. You're probably going to dip into your bird rights so you can get Paul Millsap back. But the easy answer is Bradley Beal, and I can't really think of anybody else off the top of my head. I feel like there's got to be a mid-level guy or like a Paul Millsap level player at the guard position, so that you could bring in that would put this team over the top.
I got a name I'll throw at you. Dennis Schroeder. The Thunder are expelling all assets like ding-dongs, and they could get rid of him. You're kind of selling high on Dennis Schroeder. If you can get like Michael Porter Jr. for him straight up, that's no, okay. Just doing a little jazz here, doing a little trade jazz, not jazz.
Even tonight, Michael Porter Jr., and remember, this is the first time he's really got to play in the NBA because of the back issues. 20 minutes, 6 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. Yeah. The dude is going to be special on offense. The basketball IQ, that needs some work, but he's like 21 years old, 22 years old. He's got time. And Michael Porter Jr. could very well end up being that last piece.
Sure.
If he can figure just a couple things out here or there, and that offense gets even better than what it is right now, which is outstanding. And even after the back injuries, the athleticism off the charts, just jumps out of the gym. There's a reason that guy was touted before Zion as like the next big thing.
Yeah.
So
let me throw another one at you. Kevin Love, if they can squeeze him in. If you deal Gary Harris, you can probably get the cap space for Kevin Love.
Yeah, that lineup would be fucking weird and scary, and I would love it.
Kind of fun. They'd be really good at passing.
Yeah, for sure. Jokic and Kevin Love down low is the best passing big man duo ever. And then you're setting double screens. One's popping, one's rolling for Jamal Murray. Both are popping. I mean, the defenses aren't going to know what to do. You're going to have to run some type of funky zone against that team. And then especially if you can dip into your cap and go into the luxury tax and keep Millsap, have Millsap coming off the bench age 36 through 38 or something like that. Still have Jeremy Grant there. But the problem is though, if you're getting rid of Gary Harris, you need a guard. You need a guard.
Draft one.
Yeah, but what, at 24? Yeah. You can figure something out, I'm sure. But I like it. I don't love it.
I think George Hill is going to be a free agent. I guess
I don't want wide-eyed George Hill on my team in the playoffs.
George Hill, backup point guard. I think that's...
Yeah, in the regular season, it's fantastic. When he's in the playoffs and he looks like he's staring at the Grim Reaper every time he has to do something important, I'll pass. But like a George Hill type player is all you need. It's not like you need anything crazy. Either like a George Hill type player or like a better version of Deion Waiters, somebody who can come just get a bucket. But you still need something. And that's the hard part of where they're at. Like if you get one thing, you're going to have to get rid of what makes you good somewhere else. So if you get a guard like Bradley Beal, you're going to have to get rid of some of your big man depth and big man power. And if you get a big man, you're going to have to get rid of some of the little guard depth you have.
So do you think that doing that is better than just rolling it back if you're the Nuggets?
The Kevin Love deal specifically?
Just like dealing to upgrade one of your starters.
Yeah, you're not good enough to make it out of the West right now. And I get there in the Western Conference Finals, but it's a lot closer, I think, to like the Blazers when they played the Warriors last year in the Western Conference Finals.
Sure.
As a team that could easily go out in the first round next year. They've been really awesome, and it's almost been like a March Madness Cinderella story with this team. But their talent level is still below what it's going to take to win an NBA championship, even with Murray and Jokic. Like you don't have a top 4 player, so you need a third guy. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think they need a third guy. I
I
just
hope
don't.
it's just Michael Porter Jr. I hope they run it back. And Porter Jr. comes and averages 21 points a game, and you're like, who is it, Murray or Michael Porter Jr.? Like,
If we're talking about going up against these Lakers and whatever the Clippers look like next year, whatever Luka looks like next year, Michael Porter Jr. next year needs to be your fourth guy if you really want to compete.
yeah, I think you're
They
right.
need a legit third guy because I think Jokic is like a low end one, and I think Jamal Murray is like kind of a mid level 2 for a title team. I think that in that situation you need a really solid third guy.
So let me ask you one more question before we get to football, and we will
sadness.
we'll revisit this
Yeah.
in a week or so, maybe a little bit more. If it's the Heat versus Lakers, who are you picking?
The Lakers.
Okay, good. All right, just wanted to make sure.
I'm not crazy.
Well, you are a little bit.
Well, I learned from this man behind me. Sometimes you just got to say something in sports and see what happens.
Right. You see, never mind. Well, I'll tell you.
No, what were you going to say? Say what you're going to say.
No, because you're gonna want to cut it. But I'm gonna tell you, when you said this man behind me, I thought you were making like a "I am crazy" reference. Like there's actually nobody behind me. But then I realized you were talking about Skip Bayless. So, all right, let's talk football.
Do we have to?
I guess. I'm just gonna start with the Lions.
Yeah, we might as well.
I would like to put in a formal request for Patricia to go away forever. Never come back. Get on a rocket ship and fly to the moon. And you can keep the pencil in your ear and just stay there. There's less gravity. You'll be able to jump up and down. Like, just go away forever. Because you now, through your first 34 games as the Lions head coach, have a worse record than Rod fucking Marinelli. 0-16 Rod Marinelli. You had another 10-point lead today. You were up 14-3 in the first half. You lost by 20. You lost by 21 points to the Green Bay Packers, which, by the way, the last 10 games these two teams have played, the Lions have either won or it's been less than a touchdown separating them. The talent gap isn't that big, and we have 10 games worth of history to see that. You, Quinn, whoever, need to go. And if Sheila Ford Hamp wants to prove what she said when she got appointed the new director of this franchise, which was she's tough, she doesn't accept failure, this team is going to be a winner. One, I don't think they should have let Patricia on the flight back home and should have made his ass walk home from Wisconsin. Two, if he makes it past the bye week, that's the most same old Lions shit I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. So, first and foremost, I agree with you about Matt Patricia. I came into the season believing that it was the right call to give them one more year. And I still think that based on what I knew then, that was the right thing to say. However, man, does this just look like every Lions team I've watched over the last 10 years?
If not worse.
It's the little shit, man. It's the little shit that I see. It's Jamie Collins getting ejected for headbutting a ref. It's like that kind of shit that doesn't happen to good football teams, but happens so consistently to the Lions. I'm convinced that like the trainers are giving them stupid pills sometimes. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time jumping up and down on Matt Patricia's future grave. Instead, I think that we should talk a little bit about why on the field specifically the Lions didn't win. And I want to start with Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah got his ass kicked today, right? Jeff Okudah was getting just burned left and right by Devontae Adams. But you're not putting Jeff Okudah in a situation to succeed if in game one of his rookie season, where he didn't have a preseason and he didn't have a regular length camp, you're putting him solo matchup on Devontae Adams. I don't think that there's a rookie corner in the league that could do that. Do you?
No, and I don't even think it's as simple as just throwing him on Devontae Adams. I think the guy's got the skill set to at least be able to kind of hang with Devontae Adams normally. However, when Aaron Rodgers has 6 seconds in the pocket and you have to cover Devontae Adams for all 6 of those seconds, you're going to get burned every time. And that's what we saw. And Okudah wasn't great today, even minus that, mind you. Once Devontae Adams left the game, he was getting burned by Valtez Scadley, or however the hell you say his name. It confuses me every time. But, I mean, dude, you have to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers if you want your secondary to be able to do anything. Anything. And it wasn't even a 3-man rush problem this week like we saw all year last year. This was, you went into the offseason knowing you needed people to rush the passer, knowing you didn't have the talent, right? You have Trey Flowers on one end, you need somebody else on the other, and you need at least one guy who doesn't just stop the run in the middle. We signed some decent D tackles. Danny Shelton looked like shit today, but we signed some decent defensive tackles for stopping the run. Get a guy who can go in there and rush the passer, who can break through a center or a guard or a double team once a game. We didn't get our first hurry of the quarterback until the third quarter of this game. And the secondary, being depleted, isn't going to be able to run man coverage for 10 seconds. It's just never going to work. I'm not selling completely on Okudah. I still think Okudah is going to be a really good NFL corner. Is he going to be this near generational talent a lot of us were hoping he was going to be when we took him at 3? I'm not as sure in that anymore because he looks a little slow out on the field. But I still think he's going to be a good player. You just got to have a scheme there where he has a chance, just a chance, man.
Yeah.
It's such and it's been the same problem for 3 years. We're in the 3rd year. Make an adjustment. And then not even just Patricia. Let's talk about Quinn for a second. The one move he made to be able to get a pass rusher was let's draft Julian Okwara in the 3rd round. Healthy scratch today. Healthy scratch. Are you kidding me? That's your 3rd round pick. That was your one big move. The dude you were so confident in that you didn't sign a D-end or you didn't trade for Yannick Ngakoue. And trust me, I was a big Julian Okwara guy in the draft preparation, but I'm not the GM of the Detroit fucking Lions. I'm a guy with a podcast. I'm allowed to be wrong. You're not, Bob Quinn. It's just everything this franchise does is wrong every time. And I don't want to come in here and do the same thing we did last week where we just cry about it and bitch about it. But what else are we supposed to do right now talking about this team? If we're being realistic about this team, it's going to be negative. Everything except for maybe the running backs. The running backs looked okay today. Matt Stafford didn't even look good today. He missed Danny Amendola 4 times.
Yeah.
But you know me, I'm never going to put the blame on Matt Stafford. This game was not his fault. Your defense allowed 42 points, but it's just so tiring. It's exhausting. It ruins my Sundays. It's so at Friday, Saturday, I sit there all day. I'm I can't wait to wake up, have some breakfast, drink some coffee, and then watch the Lions. And by 1:25, I'm I don't want to watch football for the rest of the day. I don't want to because this team makes me dude, this is what this team makes me. It makes me this angry, deceitful sports fan. And I'm normally the optimist, but it's impossible to be with this team. It's impossible.
It feels like we're depending on rookies and health in the year when you're least likely to succeed depending on rookies and health.
Ever.
Yes, ever. Sorry. I should have thrown that at the end there. A lot of the rookies that I've watched haven't looked super great outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a couple of receivers, but I think that's just different. I don't know, man. I don't know what to do. I do think that this would be a very appealing job for somebody to come in. The talent is there. That offense has got more talent than almost anybody in the division, at least. And I think the defense has some pieces and some youth and that a little bit of depth. I thought Tracy Walker was decent today, I guess.
I think that secondary is good with most coaches. Most coaches, that secondary is good.
Yeah.
You asked me a question last week that was, are you ready for Tank for Trevor? And I kind of blew you off because I was like, okay, they're not that bad. I know I'm angry right now, but I tried to settle myself down. After this week, man, somebody comes calling for Stafford, first, second round pick, one of those two. I trade him and I tank for Trevor, whatever it takes. Tank. Fire Patricia at the bye. Let Bevel get like these young guys really going on offense as the interim head coach for the rest of the season. Go get the Chiefs offensive coordinator, get Trevor Lawrence, and boom, I'm happy again, right? Then I'm going into next season like I do every year. I'm going 9-7, 10-6 until week 3. But I mean, like I'm there. I think I'm rooting against them for the rest of the year. I don't want them to win games. Because I know it's not going to amount to anything.
So let's go a little forward. They play the Arizona Cardinals next week.
Loss. They're going to be beat by 30.
Okay. Yes, the Arizona Cardinals have looked like a buzzsaw. That's for sure. They look scary. Kyler Murray looks untackleable. But let's say something ridiculous happens and the Lions win that game. Are you still? Does that change anything for you if they win next week at Arizona?
No, because then you're running into the Saints.
Yeah.
I mean, and it might be the Saints without Michael Thomas, but I don't think it matters. Drew Brees is going to tear this defense apart into little tiny shreds. It's just going to be ugly. And then, you get the Jags, cool. But then you get the Colts and the Vikings and the Washington.
Have you seen Gardner Minshew? We might not beat the Jags.
Dude, we talked about it last week. Where's the ceiling at for that guy?
Dude, Gardner Minshew.
So I just I'm ready for another top 3 pick. I'm ready for it, and it's got to be a quarterback this time. I hesitated on Tua this year, even though I loved Tua. I love Tua. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar, a true franchise quarterback, a guy who down the line is going to be able to compete for Super Bowls. I think that highly of him. But we had Matt Stafford. I thought the talent was there. I thought the injury held us back from being like an 8-8 team last year. But now we're looking at it, and Patricia's the coach. Stafford can't go to his 5th head coach. It's just time to restart and find the new path. Like, we've been doing this for over a decade. It's not going to work. So let's restart. Wipe the slate clean. That probably means Marvin Jones is gone because he's getting up there in age. Obviously, Adrian Peterson will be gone next year. You're going to need to add a couple offensive line pieces. You're going to need to add some defensive line pieces. You might trade Trey Flowers if you trade Matt Stafford. I mean, there's going to be a big turnaround. It was awesome today.
Line was like the one bright spot for me.
Until the second half. Stafford started getting lit up at the end of that game. But the first half, that offensive line was awesome. But I still think you're going to need to add some interior pieces, mostly at the guard position. So like a second-round pick at guard, and you can have a really good offensive line.
Yeah.
But you're still you're gonna trade most of your big pieces if Stafford goes, including like Trey Flowers and Marvin Jones. And it's not going to be next year. It might be the year after if everything goes perfect. But it's we're back to being years away, which I haven't felt like that as a Lions fan in quite some time. But we're back to being years away, plural.
So I'm assuming that I know that we're projecting like really far forward here. We're in week 2 of the NFL season, but like this is pretty
where we're at.
It's pretty convincingly apocalyptic after 2 weeks. Bob Quinn gets fired and Patricia gets fired, correct?
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts about like what a GM hire would look like?
No. I mean, I hope it's somebody I've never heard of. I don't want it to be this big name. The last 2 big name guys we got were Bob Quinn and Matt Millen, who were both worse than Martin Mayhew somehow. Like, Matt Millen's the worst general manager of all time, and Bob Quinn is like not great. We've tried to defend Bob Quinn now going on 3 years, and it's
really tried to defend Bob Quinn. We have gone out of our way to defend Bob Quinn. And I know that people won't believe that because they've only heard us talk about football for a few weeks, but like we've really tried to put it out there for Bob Quinn and kind of ignored Jarrett Davis and kind of maybe ignored some of the other misses,
boosted Tracy Walker and boosted Deshaun Hand, and like It was the whole. It was
Jelani
the hopefulness. Yeah, right.
We love Jelani Tavai, and we'll never give him up. But at the end of the day, he's probably not a talented enough player for where you drafted him at.
No,
third round healthy scratch in week 2. That's not good.
No, not good at all.
Let's
go around the league.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm done with the Lions. I know we touched on it for a second, but I want to hear your thoughts on the Cardinals because that team is fucking so good. They're so good.
First thought, of course, is I told you all. The Cardinals are so good. That offense is amazing. They got the exact guy they needed to go with Kyler Murray. Their running game is fine. The defense is good enough, but Kyler Murray is he's the closest thing I think I've seen to like a pure Michael Vick, in that Michael Vick was a passing quarterback who could run like a running back, and Kyler Murray is the same thing. He doesn't have to run. He gets to choose when he wants to run. And I think that they hired the right head coach to like kind of build a system around him. And they're just an offensive juggernaut. And I do think that they'll probably slow down after 6 weeks and there's some good tape on them. But I think that offense is here to stay. I think that once we've like seen a few weeks of them, that like some defensive genius / rocket scientist head coach who's really good at coaching defense might be able to find a way to stop them.
I mean, like they went up against the Washington football team today, who had 8 sacks last week, and they only allowed 3 sacks today. Kyler Murray won the game on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns on only 8 rushing attempts, 67 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have an off week or 2 because they're young, but I mean, then I want to say they're an easy pick for the playoffs, but the NFC West is so ridiculous this year. So, I mean, unbelievably ridiculous. Every team in that division is going to be really good this year, including the Rams, I think, by the way, who have looked awesome in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. I like the Rams a lot this year as like a bounce back. It feels like we know this year, too, the 49ers are already in the middle of a big-time Super Bowl hangover. So I like the Rams to continue being a bounce back team. And I don't really know if I agree with the amount of money that they're handing out to some of these players, specifically like Robert Woods. Kind of feels like maybe you could draft that guy.
You can find a Robert Woods.
Go off Rams if you think you can afford it.
And I guess you do. You got to keep really good. Like Jared Goff isn't a star. You have to keep good offensive pieces around him. So I get it from that aspect. But
it's the Jared Goff line.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what it is. We've been hunting for this for some time. A replacement for the Andy Dalton line is the quarterback who can get any team to 9-7 in a first-round loss, and I think he's probably Jared Goff.
It's the Jared Goff line. You're 100% right. That's the most perfect comparison.
Excellent.
I
just want to real quick throw in that you going, I have a podcast, I'm allowed to be wrong, is like the fourth wall shattering for podcasts.
Good. Fuck Vince McMahon. That's all I'm saying. The Bucks looked good. Tom Brady looked super old. Like super old.
Big Peyton Manning on the Broncos vibes.
Yeah, and like that, that won a Super Bowl, but that was also a generational defense. But I'm still like, I still think they're going to be really good, even though the ball takes 4.5 seconds to get to the sideline when Tom Brady throws it. Like, I think there's just so much damn talent there. Mike Evans can catch anything. Chris Godwin is really good, even though he's a little banged up. Gronk is going to have his moments. The team is they're just good. They're just talented. And they still put up 31, even with Brady not looking good. They put up 31.
Some of
Fournette, 103 yards on 12 carries.
Oh yeah, he's RB1 now. I think probably going forward. Had like 5 receptions. Had like 5 receptions too. I think. Some of those throws, I know that they're like real quacky in the air, but they're really accurate. He throws these balls that only his receivers can grab. So the fact that he's throwing like change ups out there into left field, I think is kind of okay because of who his receivers are. Godwin and Mike Evans are a pretty good match. I kind of was red zoning that game. Did you see Gronk much? What's Gronk up to?
Let me check the stat line. Because
I think that like Gronk was maybe one of the most divisive.
He had one target.
Player. Oh, that's not good.
I think it's going to be he plays 40% of the snaps until week 12, and then he's going to jump back in, and then he'll be okay in the playoffs. Like, I don't think anybody was expecting him to be a superstar this year, except for NFL casuals, which of course they were. He's Rob Gronkowski. But like 104 of the passing yards out of 217 went to Mike Evans. So
yeah,
man, he's so good. Mike Evans is so good. The Eagles allowed 37 points to those Rams we were just talking about. Carson Wentz, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like, how long? I know it's week 2, but how long until Jalen Hurts' name starts coming up?
A couple more weeks at least. I think we're pretty far away from Jalen Hurts time.
I think we're further away than we should be.
So you think that we're probably 6 weeks away, like 6 weeks of bad play?
Yeah, and I think we should be 2 or 3 away.
Yeah, Carson Wentz has been bad. I mean, not good. He's been just, I think, pretty plain bad. It's tough with the Eagles, man. I never really feel like I have a good beat on that offense because they've all kind of been there for a while, and except for Miles Sanders, and I don't really have any strong Eagles opinions, unfortunately.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you last week. The Jaguars put up 30 points on the Titans this week. Gardner Minshew, 30 for 45, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. Still threw 2 picks. But what is the ceiling for Gardner Minshew?
He's above the Jared Goff line. I think he's pretty
like
firm.
The ceiling is. I don't think he's there. Right now he's not. But
I think he's kind of close.
I think he's probably close, but I still think he's below it.
He's throwing to nobody.
DJ Chark is a beast.
I don't know. I know they have like LaVisca Chenault too, right? I think he had a touchdown last
Chris
week.
Conley's all right. I mean, there's some weapons there. There's a lot of guys who can make some catches. Tyler Eifert's there, and he's healthy right now for 2 more weeks.
Sure, yeah, sure. Let me ask you this: if DJ Chark played for the Lions, what receiver number would he be? Because I think he'd be 3.
I think you're I want to put him above Marv. I do. I want to put him above Marv. But I don't think I can for sure. But remember, this is his second year in the league. But I get your point. I guess we'll say 3, although I'm not super confident saying 3 because like Danny Amendola's 3 right now, and he's going like 6 for 80 every week. So
yeah,
like
what does Hawk count as? I think he'd be behind Hawk on the catch reception chart. Oh, that's the only other good thing for the Lions. Hawk looks fucking great.
Yeah. I could use a few more targets his way, but
yeah, me too. I agree.
That also might be a separation issue. You never know. You got anything else from around the league?
Next week, the Ravens play the Chiefs in what is going to be probably the best football game that we'll see in the regular season. So my question to you is, who's your pick? I don't know what the line is yet. I don't think it's out, but who do you think is going to win right now?
I am going to say it's Baltimore -3. I'm going to say Baltimore. I think they've looked like the best team in football. The Chiefs didn't look great tonight by any means. They only scored 20 points or 23 points against the Chargers, who are no world beaters. And I get everybody has an off week. But I'm going to say the Ravens. I think they're going to control time of possession, which you normally can't do versus the Chiefs. Everybody's ready for Clyde Edwards-Helaire now, who did not have a good game today. It'll be like 38-34. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be just a great game. It'll be like, what was it, Rams-Patriots a few years ago?
I think it was Rams-Chiefs a few years ago.
Rams-Chiefs a few years ago. It'll be like that.
Yeah.
But I think the Ravens will come out with it. And right now, I think the Ravens are probably my Super Bowl favorite.
Me too. The Ravens have looked like an absolute juggernaut. J.K. Dobbins is like, for the way that they use him, he's been very fun. He's been very good. That backfield is unstoppable.
Hey, do you have any idea who J.K. Dobbins reminds me of?
Who?
Emmitt Smith.
Ooh, interesting.
2 carries, 48 yards today. 24 yards a carry for that boy J.K. Dobbins.
He had a couple grabs too, I think.
1 for 13. They should be getting him more involved. Why is Gus Edwards getting 10 carries? I guess because he averaged 7.3 yards per carry. That's probably why.
I suspect that the way that offense works, you or I could average 5 yards a carry. I just think that that like defenses. It's like the Chiefs. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire week one. The defenses aren't worried about you. They have other things in their mind.
There's just so much damn talent on this ball.
The Chiefs did not look good this week, but you know who did in that game was Justin Herbert, who looked very, very good. I thought very surprisingly good. Their coach came out after the game and said, I'm so hesitant to say this name. Tyrod Taylor is.
Hey! It's Tyrod.
Is it?
It's Tyrod.
God damn it! I'm sorry. Tyrod Taylor still has the starting job. Do you agree with that?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane. Like, it's coach talk, so Herbert is motivated in practice this week. Like, that's what it is. But Herbert went 67% completion, 22 of 33, over 300 yards and a touchdown. And I get this Chiefs defense isn't like the best defense in the world, but it's also not bad. And Herbert isn't, in my mind, supposed to be as good as he was today. So if Tyrod Taylor starts next week, just know that they're tanking. Just know that's what they're doing.
He faced a lot of heat. He was under pressure a lot in that game, quite a bit. And I thought he looked really good considering that level of pressure. The Chicago Bears are 2-0. Are they going to win the division?
No. Nope.
Are they going to get second place in the division?
Yeah, probably. Probably. The Vikings look like dog shit. The Lions are dog shit. The Packers are just going to find ways to win because Aaron Rodgers is Jesus Christ on a football field when he wants to be. And then the Bears will go like 8-8 because Mitch Trubisky's going to suck at some point. We all know it's coming. He's got his 2 weeks under his belt now where you go, oh, maybe Mitch Trubisky could be good. And now he's going to suck for 8 weeks. So, but that defense will win him a couple games. Bad teams will win them a couple games and they'll go 8-8 behind. And then the Packers will go like 11-5.
Yeah, I actually think the Bears are they're a pretty classic bad good team. I think they played the Lions and the Giants 2 weeks in a row. Now they got a little momentum and they'll win some games, but they won't be good. Cam Newton, there's 39 seconds left in the Patriots Seahawks games. It is 30-35. Cam Newton's stat line: he has 367 passing yards, passing TD, 10 rushing attempts for 48 yards, and 2 rushing TDs. So let me ask you. What contract does Cam Newton sign next year?
Like a 23 a year for 3 years. It still won't be that. It's the NFL and its health. He's not getting like no $30 million or anything like that. Even if he plays like this all year, like on the high end, 20 to 23 million a year.
Wow. That's a lot higher than what I would have gotten. Holy crap, the Patriots are in the red zone again.
Yep. Can we I'm not going to be able to focus for the next 10 seconds. So
yeah, we're going to check out real quick and then we'll be right back in like these next 2 frames. Oh no, what a terrible play call.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. That's
we're doing
rough.
like instant. We're coming back now with instantaneous 10-second to go reaction, and my reaction is, what the fuck was that play call?
Yeah, I don't understand why you're gonna line 11 guys up on the line of scrimmage and just say, all right, we have 9, you have 11. Let's see who wins this because you got the running back in the backfield. Cam Newton there to take the snap. At least fake it to your running back, like at least, or go outside. Don't just try to go up the middle. Seattle wins 35-30. I'm kind of mad I missed the second half of that game because I feel like that was probably a great game to watch.
Heavy is the head that hosts the podcast, Andrew. To me, and I know that like it's like really easy to be like, that's bad play call. What would you call? Very simple. Madden Classic. Play action out to your second tight end in the back right of the end zone. Works 100% of the time.
Bill Belichick has banned the words Madden Classic, Philly Special in his locker room. Also, Julian Edelman, 8 for 179 in this game. Wow. I didn't think he was completely a product of Brady, but I didn't think he could put up those numbers without him.
It's like 79 years old, too, or something like that.
Wow. I mean, this Patriots team's going to be good. They're going to be
so many
good.
guys in that team opted out. They have so much money in dead cap space right now.
Doesn't matter. Bill Belichick.
Unbelievable. How is it possible? How is it possible? I just don't understand. Like at a fundamental level, how Bill Belichick can beat the Seattle Seahawks, missing his 3 best defenders after losing his quarterback and going through 10 coaches at his positions over the last 5 years. And we can't fucking beat Mitch Trubisky.
Because he's the greatest coach in North American professional sports ever.
I don't even how do you quantify that?
You just look at the resume. You look at what he does with the
How is it that at the highest level of something like this, that there's somebody who's so far ahead of everybody else and continues to be so far ahead of everybody else for over a decade?
I think it's relatively simple. He literally changes the scheme and the game plan every week. He has this ability to get a new scheme implemented in 5 days, and he does it every single week. What is going to work against this team? That's what we're doing this week.
Somehow we got the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, is how Matt Patricia's career as a head coach gone? Not the ultimate praise. Doesn't that just show how great Bill Belichick is? They had some great defenses when Matt Patricia was there as the DC.
The Bill Belichick coaching tree is full of failure.
Well, I guess so. From what I've heard, he doesn't share all his secrets with anybody except for he's about to share them with Josh McDaniels. It sounds like when he eventually takes over for him. So, yeah, you're right though. It defies logic. It doesn't make sense how he does this year after year after year, and now without Brady, and it's like you said, fucking 10 guys opted out for them. He's gone through 100 assistant coaches in the last decade because we're one of the stupid teams, and every team around the league is stupid enough to be like, maybe we'll get the next Bill Belichick, even though we've seen it go 0 for 100. But it doesn't matter. If you have him, you can win every week. You're going to be in it every week. I think I could play quarterback and we'd win 4 games. 3 games.
Yeah, you get to play the Jets, so that's at least 2 wins.
Yeah, you're right. I just want to give you a sarcastic good job for the Steelers beating Jeff Driscoll today.
Oh, come on. They beat 1/4 of Drew Lock.
Yeah, that's true. What else? You got anything else for football before we do a quick pitch?
Yeah, let's do some quick pitch. I'm good to move on from football. Good week of football, though. Good week of football. I enjoyed it.
Yes, except for the one part that we discussed
except
earlier.
For the Lions, which is
you do not speak that name after we finish talking about them on this podcast. All right, quick pitch. So, a little bit of Detroit Tigers talk. I've kind of tried to stray away from this the last couple of weeks just because it's nobody cares. Nobody cares about the Tigers right now. They're out of it. Casey Mize and Scooble are pitching. Casey Mize has been awful. Scooble's been pretty good. But Ron Gardenhire announced his retirement effective immediately the other day. And Lloyd McClendon will finish out the year as the Tigers' interim coach. And there is 3 names. I'm going to say 4 names. One of them's for fun. But 4 names that are consistently coming up for who could be the next Detroit Tigers head coach. The first 2 are the 2 managers that lost their jobs because of the cheating scandal with the Astros this offseason. That is A.J. Hinch, who's a damn good head coach, who would be my number 1 pick. And then there's Alex Cora, who's coaching the Red Sox, was part of the Astros when everything happened. He lost his job, but also a really good head coach. And then 2 Tigers fans' all-time favorites. One being super for real, which is Marcus Thames, Yankees hitting coach. Country strong, as Rod Allen would say, a dude that could just hit bombs. And maybe the all-time Tigers role player favorite, and that is Sir Don Kelly. Which, I'm not lying when I tell you, Don Kelly, I'm cool with that. Even, we're taking a shot in the dark, but he was a work hard, put your head down type player, and those guys typically become good coaches. But any of those 4 guys, if we're going into next season with any of those 4, I'm excited. I mean, look at what Marcus Thames has done with this Yankees team. Obviously, you got Stanton and Judge, but then Gleyber Torres and Sanchez, you got hitting up and down that lineup. So that's got to be something to do with your hitting coach, at least a little bit. They don't slump very much. When they do slump, they get out of it stronger than ever. They just hit 19 home runs in 3 games a few days ago. So I would love all of those. But Gardenhire out, effective immediately. He will no longer be the head coach. From everything I've seen, heard, and listened to, class act, great guy for a team that was going through what we were going through. But also, I never thought he was the right guy for the next 3 or 4 years.
I'd be really surprised if you get Alex Cora.
Why is that?
Well, isn't he probably going to go back to the Red Sox after this year?
No. They fired him.
Okay.
So
I don't know if you want that kind of heat on your really bad team, honestly.
I think it'll be a week of people like, oh, he cheated. I mean, people weren't mad at Alex Cora in the first place. He was, he's gone from the Astros. Everybody just wanted to be mad at the Astros, and then the MLB knew they had to punish another person, so it ended up being Cora. And that's, I think by the time next year rolls around, people will pretty much forget about it. I'd rather have Hinch, by the way. I'd much rather have Hinch.
Yeah. Okay.
Big Ten football is officially back. We didn't talk about this last week, did we?
I don't think so.
Okay, good, because I don't think it was approved. 8-game schedule, way stricter guidelines than the rest of college football, which, by the way, has been a fucking mess. Like an absolute mess. LSU, I mean, Coach O was pretty much just like, everybody had COVID. Huh, go Tigers. It's been a mess. And in the Big Ten, you pretty much, it's like 5 guys get COVID and your game is canceled, no makeups. So I think they're just doing this to appease the masses. It's going to go like 3 weeks and then it's all going to be over.
I agree. I think that the Big Ten has kind of more or less has been forced to operate by media narrative. The president got involved. Kayleigh McEnany thought that Mississippi had a school in the Big Ten. That's besides the point. There's no reason for me to say that.
Yeah, but it's still no. Say it again. Will you say it again?
Yeah. It's look. College football. This is, I think, a big giant dark mark on an already dark sport for football. Will I watch Michigan play Michigan State this year? I don't know. Yeah, probably. But this is the lowest stakes, least important college football season ever. It exists solely so that schools
can make money.
Twitter bots don't get mad at them. So
yeah, and like Eastern doesn't lose their football team. I don't even know if they're playing, but it's all for money. I know, but I'm just saying college football it's just for money. It's a complete disregard for the safety of the college students. First, by the way, college students, complete disregard for the safety of all of them. And it's so they can go get money. And so a certain group of people aren't very mad at them for taking their precious football away. But yes, I'll watch Michigan versus MSU. I'll watch Michigan versus Ohio State. I'm excited to see, sounds like Dylan McCaffrey's transferring. I'm excited to see if Joe Milton is like this weirdo freak on a football field that everybody's always kind of thought he was. But I'm also not going to live and die, cry after the Ohio State game like I normally do. So,
next pitch.
NFL injuries this week.
Man,
I'm going to give you some big ones. Saquon Barkley probably tore his ACL. Nick Bosa probably tore his ACL. Drew Lock hurt his shoulder, AC joint or something. Malik Hooker probably tore his Achilles. Sterling Shepard hurt his toe. Cam Akers hurt his ribs. Byron Jones hurt his groin. Anthony Barr hurt his shoulder. Paris Campbell hurt his knee. Raheem Mostert hurt his knee. Is this a product of shortened training camp, no mini camp, not being able to get your body in the normal shape, or was it just a freak week?
So, of course, like your impulse, I think you kind of get the recency bias, and it makes you want to say, yeah, this is an anomaly, or this is bad. But I actually don't. I just think that football is like this, and we forget every year that football is like this. And then J.J. Watt's shoulder disconnects from his body, and we're like, oh, football injuries. But I think that this is just the way that football is every year. And I'll have to see if there will be maybe some data on like the numbers and severity of the injuries that come out at the end of this week. We'll have to take a look back at this next week. But to me, this is just what happens every year. The NFL loses. Remember when they lost like 10 quarterbacks in a year, like 2 years ago? I think that this is just football to me. Saquon Barkley gets hurt, by the way. That's like –
and that – I mean, literally that offensive line is just like, hey, you want to – do you want to hit my running back? And he's just like, what are you doing, guys? And then they come and hit him. So I hope you're right, but I think also all the hamstring issues I've been seeing, I think it's a little bit of both. I do think some of it has to do with the lack of, or the how much less preparation there was this year.
Yeah, no Chris Godwin, no Michael Thomas. I'm trying to think who else we were missing this week. We were missing a bunch of people. Tyrod Taylor, Kenny Galladay. Oh yeah, a lot of maybe some of the
Desmond Trufant.
Yeah. Well, the Lions are banged up everywhere. It seems like somehow, but I think that's a product more of playing at Ford Field, which I feel like is like a breeding ground for bad injuries. It's just that turf, man. We'll have to do like a longer segment on this, but Ford Field is dangerous to play on. It causes a lot of injuries, I think, more than a lot of other places.
Should have built a retractable roof, but all right, I got a curveball to end it for you. We're going to switch up to soccer here. Something I know me and you both loved to see, but opening night for Juventus, Weston McKennie was in the starting lineup. Is this something we're going to see going forward? Yeah, that's amazing. Is this something we're going to see going forward, or is this like...
He was really good.
Yeah.
He almost scored twice. He got like remember when the referees put a note card in between the football and the first down marker in that Dallas Cowboys game? That was the difference between him scoring a goal on VAR this week. He was awesome. He looks super like exactly what they needed. He covers a shitload of ground. He makes big tackles. He can play the occasional like really nice line breaking pass. He was super good. And you're, I think, going to see quite a bit of him. I just think he played. I will say this, though. Pirlo pulled some bullshit that I didn't think was going to happen anymore, and he played McKennie at right wide back, which was supposed to stop happening after he left Schalke, that they would stop playing him at like 5 different positions on the field. But that's just a product of being kind of good at everything, right? It's that center midfielder trait of I'm a B- to a B at everything except for my athleticism, which is a B+. So they can play him wherever they need to. But it's better than if they had pulled him out, I guess. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm just excited about the USMNT period. You got anything else this week?
Should we do you want to do a little transfer roundup real quick?
Hit me up with your big 3 to 5 transfer rumors.
Brendan Aronson, it seems like, is a couple days away from signing a deal to go play at Red Bull Salzburg, which is one of the best development clubs in the world, right behind Ajax and PSV. What else? What was the other one or two? Mark McKenzie to Celtic is potentially on the table, but he's kind of turned into like the best player for the Philadelphia Union. The Philadelphia